painting to photography, from beadwork to woodworking. KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University presents Art Beat. Art Beat highlights the work and accomplishments of local artists from in and around Winona. Support for Art Beat is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Lights, camera, action. Today on Art Beat, we cover the Frozen River Film Festival. We reached out to a few of the directors to get the behind-the-scenes and production process. Today we're joined by the director of Junkin, Andy Heck. We're also joined by his father and local artist, Mike Heck. Stay tuned as we hear about a man's walk towards redemption told through a short film today on Art Beat. I'm joined here in the studio by Andy Heck, the director of Junkin. How are you doing today, Andy?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right, and we're actually joined by your father as well.
Yep, he's here.
All right, so this will just be the first question. How did this film come to be?
So this film is about alcohol addiction, and it kind of sparked my interest in making a film when I found out that my father had gotten arrested for his third DUI. And I found out from a few other people before he told me. But after a couple weeks, he finally called me and told me about it and told me that he had an opportunity to potentially be in a program that would help him learn how to quit drinking and change his ways a little bit. And once I found out that they were going to accept him into that program, I saw an opportunity to share a story about, what can happen when you don't put somebody in prison and you actually help them instead, because I think that's a big issue in our country, that we just throw people in jail without really helping them. So that's what originally sparked my interest in making the film.
And when did filming start?
Oh, boy. So I started filming, back in 2016, I believe, originally, and that was when the film was supposed to be about what I had just explained. And so I got a bunch of just B-roll footage, and then in 2020 is when I actually filmed the interviews that are used in the film. I did a few other interviews along the way that I just didn't really like, but they helped me figure out what the story was going to be. So the bulk of the filming was in 2022 and 2021.
All right, and I probably should have asked this first, but can you give our audience a bit of a summary of the film itself?
So the film is about my father, Mike, who had struggled with alcohol addiction and, depression and hoarding disorder for 30 to 35 years. And it's about him and what he went through in that. And then once he got arrested, how he followed through and changed his way for the better.
No, that's an interesting story in itself, because he, in the hoarding that he did, he started making statues out of it, which leads to the title of the film, Junkin. Junkin being taking the, as he calls it, junk, and making something creative and good out of it. And this will be more of a story for Mike. How did that come to you? Why did you suddenly start making these statues?
Originally, I always thought about being some sort of an artist and creative. I always had that ability, but I never really approached it, because I was drinking. But after that, I had people asking me to create things and donate them, and that's where it started all about, and giving them to different organizations like Make-A-Wish and the Lymphomia Foundation, and then they'd raffle them off, and that's kind of what inspired me in using my junk.
When watching the film, you talked about a bit of your experiences while you were still drinking heavily. How you would come home and you'd make promises to people and you wouldn't fulfill those promises, or you've missed out on a lot of your son's life. And you could see the emotion in your eyes in this film of your regret and your sorrow. And these statues are almost like your way of trying to, I guess, receive redemption. Do you think the statue, the artwork you're making, is really helping you capture that?
Yeah, I guess anything that can keep me going, going back to where I was, is kind of a redemption for me. And some of the things that I'm doing lately is something that people are going to see. I'm making a statue in front of my museum for a trolley. I'm helping to restore some actual trolley cars. And that's something that somebody will see for a long time, and it kind of makes me feel good and keeps me out of mischief, put it that way.
And Andy, how do you feel seeing the change in your father since, growing up with him, having these struggles, and then now making these statues for big names and organizations?
Yeah, I think it's been obviously really great for our relationship. I think, a lot of people that knew my father for a long time knew his capabilities, and when I started kind of creating some of my own art or my own, construction projects or whatever, they often compared me to him, and I didn't always like that compliment. I knew it was a compliment, but there was something missing about it because he wasn't there working with me, and he didn't really teach me how to do a lot of those things, and I had to kind of learn them on my own. And since he's been sober, we've actually worked on quite a few projects, and like pretty major things, and we completed them, and it feels good to have accomplished something and receive compliments as like a pair as opposed to, individual compliments on stuff that, I wish he would have been there for in the past.
So in a way, it's kind of like recapturing something that was lost, and it's a really beautiful story when you look at it. A man who kind of lost almost everything to drinking, or everything, depending on how you look on it, and reconnecting with his son through this film that kind of creates the bonds that they both wish they could have had prior to it. It is a very touching film, despite how the emotion doesn't come in from trying to be emotionally charged. The entirety of the film is just an interview with your father, and him just talking about his thoughts. You could see the impact that the struggle has had on his life, and seeing him come back from that, and seeing the things that could have been that weren't, but some things that could have been didn't become a thing. It just gave him a whole new opportunity that he took and did something great with. And that leads to my next question here. When he does get pulled over for, I believe you said his third DUI, yeah? Yeah. I guess I could ask both of you this question. How would things have been different if he would have gone to jail? I don't think it would have changed him. I mean, we saw that story play out 2 times before. Not that he went to jail the first time, but the second time was just for a little bit. And like I said, we're just such a punishment society. We like thrive off of people doing things wrong and then, throwing the punishment at them. And nobody really ever talks about what we can do to actually help people. And, he didn't get any help the first 2 times. And it took that third time, even though we had tried some other things, and that was discussed in the films. We had tried some other things that didn't work, but the fact that there was a judge that was willing to give him a second chance, and that judge, he's in the film as well. I was so happy he was part of it. He actually really cared, and in talking to him when I met him, he really did care a lot about the people that he was helping, and I think that could really change a lot about the world if we did things for people like that instead of just punishing them. And I believe in punishment when it's due, but I think there's this other side where we could be helping people a little bit more often. And to your point, I think he would have came out of jail and still been drinking, and he's definitely said that many times over and over since then. Right. So this really shows. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I told you this when we met during the film festival. This story did tug on a few heartstrings of mine. So I'm thinking back to what I saw, and it's really getting to me. Excuse me. Well, if you don't mind, I'll share one other thing you kind of touched on is, kind of some of that lost time. One of the projects, actually the first project we did since my father quit drinking, was we created a mini bike. And, we're both a little old for mini bikes by some people's standards, I guess. But, we worked on it. We got it done so quick, and we were on the same page, and it turned out really amazing. And that was a bike we made for myself. And then a few years ago, we actually created a bike for my dad, a mini bike. So it's kind of like one of those things we had talked about when I was younger that we wanted to create, and we finally got that chance to do it. And it was like a little kid's toy in a way, but we're having fun with those. And all this happened because someone gave your father another chance.
Exactly.
It's just a really touching story, and something the film does in such a raw way.
I think what you're saying about that too is that a lot of documentary filmmakers will tell you not to make a personal film, and there's many reasons why. And when you're planning it, you might want to tell a story different than what the audience wants to see. And then when you're doing the interviewee might try to paraphrase. And then when it comes to the edit, it's very hard to take an objective look at it. And I had a few people really help me through that process. And, I had about 5 hours worth of interview footage, which I apologize to my dad for making him go through that. But in the end, I ended up cutting it down to about 45 minutes, and I knew that was too long, but I was so attached to the story that I didn't know exactly what to get rid of. And my friend Julie, she just happened to have a studio next to mine where I was working, and she just took it upon herself to help me, and she's a documentary filmmaker as well. And she sat with me, and we worked it out, and we got it down to under 20 minutes, which is where I wanted it to be. And I used to be on the same page telling people not to make a personal documentary, but I think it can be an amazing thing if you do. It's just maybe getting other people involved to help you tell the right story, but I'm happy with the way this one turned out.
Well, it definitely adds a bit of humanity to the film, right? Because if it was completely impersonal, it doesn't have that same emotional weight. But the fact that it's filmed by someone who, from what it looks like, you kind of, forgave your father and were like, he's really trying to change, and I want to show people that he's changed and that, the great thing that's come of this. It adds more fuel to the fire of why us as the everyday individuals should take it seriously or take it at face value, because it's done by people who are affected by it. It's not done by people who don't know, who are not on the inside. And I think that kind of adds a bit to the weight of the film itself.
Yeah, and that was one interesting thing as a filmmaker. I never really heard of this strategy, but my friend Patrick Mitchell, who's an amazing documentary filmmaker, who's actually an art director for Mr. Beast right now, he was there helping me do the interview, and I had him do the first interview that you saw in the film, and I really wanted him to do it because that's what I had learned about documentary filmmaking, is that somebody else not too emotionally attached to the subject should be doing it. And about halfway through, he was getting some good responses, but he wasn't getting the emotion that we were looking for. And he told me that I had to be the one to do the interviews. And what ended up happening was my father and I had a discourse a little bit more than it was an interview, where I would share with him how I felt in a certain moment before I asked him the questions. And I think part of his recovery was to kind of look forward and not look back. But through this documentary, he and I had a conversation where he did have to look back, and he did have to talk about those things in the past, and so did I. We're both people that don't normally want to talk about things that are over. We like to move forward and move on with life, but I think through the documentary we had this discussion that we never would have had otherwise, and I think that was very important for us, and it was very important for the film as well.
You mentioned how you had 5 hours of interview footage. Is there anything that was left out of the film that you'd like to share with us now?
I think my father's just done a lot of really great things, not just what I shared in the film. He's been volunteering for the local railroad, its oldest electric railroad in the country that still operates today. And even the year we did the interview, he didn't even tell me this, but he had won Volunteer of the Year for that organization, which was pretty cool. So he's done that, and not only he's not very big on selling his artwork. He will, but I think he's been very compelled to create art for charities and for gifts. It's like every time somebody has a milestone birthday or a wedding or something like that, I think they look forward to the gift that my father is going to give them, because it's something that he had created. So I think it's just, that kind of is known in the film, but it gets a little bit lost because he's just been doing so much for so many other people, and he's been so selfless about his approach to sharing his artwork.
So, Mike, from your perspective, how did it feel participating in this film?
Well, that's kind of hard to say because I was in several of his 48-hour films just as a stand-in, I guess. And so I was used to that, but I didn't know what the story that he was going for, so I actually basically sat there and answered questions, and I didn't really understand what the story. I kind of knew what he was going for, but I didn't know what the outcome of the film is, and I never saw the film until the first screening that he had, So it was kind of a shock to me to see it, too. But it's I guess what makes the whole thing is it's actually a true story, and it's like there was no script or anything, It's just he answered me questions, he asked questions, and I answered them, And for the most part, I hope it'll help other people, and I guess it's about getting a second chance and actually being able to take advantage and show your willpower that you can beat something that's affected you in such a way.
Well, can you elaborate a little more on the first time you saw it? Because you were unaware of it until you saw it the first time. How did it feel witnessing it on a screen?
It was kind of overwhelming, and then he had made some posters, and then at the end, I didn't even get to hardly take it in because I was signing all these different posters for people, and it was kind of overwhelming, and every time I see it, I kind of it's one of them movies, and I'm always like that. Every time I see a movie, each time I see it, I get more and more in depth into it, and maybe value something or get something more out of it each time.
Well, let's. I do want to dive a little more into your experiences throughout the film, and more specifically, your struggle with alcoholism.
Yeah, okay.
It does go in the film how you left work and you would just start drinking beers on your way to home, and then while at home you would continue to drink. Looking back, what do you think caused you to have this struggle in the first place? Do you think there's anything that caused it, or
not necessarily? It's just growing up in the Milwaukee or the Wisconsin area. Beer is actually, or alcohol is a pretty prominent thing about society, and as an iron worker, a lot of times at the end of the job, we were rewarding ourselves, because we worked hard, we were accomplishing, and we sometimes when you got finished a building, you had a topping out party, and you drank and saw what you created, so it became a reward, and then it all of a sudden started to become like a repetition, where it started to happen more and more and more and every day, and that's kind of what led to it, is basically, one of the things that is accepted, in some areas, is the church festivals have beer at them, it's there. Everywhere you go, there's some sort of, a party of some. So I think that's maybe what led to it. But my dad did drink too. Although he wasn't real. Yeah, he drank quite a bit too. But he was in the community and done a lot of things too. So that may have had a little bit to do with it.
Well, diving into your second chance that you get from this judge, what would you say were your major struggles in trying to get over this dependency?
Actually, it was quite helpful, and like when I was in the courtroom where we had to go every other week, and everybody would sit for 5 minutes, and they'd talk to you and see how you're doing, and see if you violated any type of their rules. And I kind of joked around a lot, and then it made everybody laugh, And then I actually told the judge, that I'm taking this seriously, but I'm even though I joke around, and he looked at me and said, "You're just trying to make the best of what we have. Nobody wants to be here, but make it enjoyable." And that's, I think, how I got kind of through it a little bit.
You're here where you're standing now, right? And I know Andy just told me you don't like to look back and stuff like that, but I will ask you to do it one more time. I imagine that this struggle has had a very harsh impact on some of the relationships you've had with people. If you could go back and to the people that who you were with that were affected by the struggle like you, what would you say to them?
Well, my family's, I guess, a lot of them, just basically for right now, I guess I'm sorry. And, the alcohol didn't make me think clearly, about what I was doing at the time. At the time, you don't realize that you're hurting anybody because you're just having a good time and, doing that. And it's when you do quit and you finally look at the big picture, how you really did hurt a lot of people, and without even really knowing it. And that's kind of a sad thing, that I look at nowadays. And I'm gaining quite a bit back, though, and that's going to be ongoing for quite a while.
He's also asking about what would you say to people that are struggling with addiction, and other people that are going through what you went through.
Yeah, that's
kind of a hard one, that question there, because that's I guess it's something that I can't tell you to quit or whatever. That's something that you got to reach inside yourself and say, you want to quit, and you get your willpower. And that goes with anything, quitting smoking, quitting doing anything that's not good for you. It's you gotta want to do that on your own, and I guess being arrested for a third time kind of helped me to see that, and the judge gave me that second chance. It really kind of opened my eyes up, that, hey, I gotta get out of where I'm at, climb out of this hole. And that program actually helped me quite a bit, learning how to, your mind works and how to say no and move forward.
Well, that's a wonderful note to land on. I will. I'll end this interview off with one question for both of you, and that is, what's in the future for both of you?
I'm just going to continue keeping myself busy and trying to, I think I found some of my passion is in my artwork, and kind of maybe get some of it more out there. And, whenever I get to a point where I feel like I'm going to do that, I dump a box of junk on my walking table and just start putting it together, and just use your skill. And with the railroad that I'm working on, I'm taking my skills and I'm teaching other people, and I'm creating a thing that's going to be around for a long time, and maybe some sort of legacy, I guess, at some point. That's what I'm trying to do.
For me, I'm looking forward to making more documentaries. Again, it's something that I used to do a lot more, and I kind of got away from it for a while. And I'm happy that I did this film, because it kind of, in a similar way, reignited my passion for the medium. So I got some stuff in the works. A film I filmed, another Wisconsin story. It's very different, very entertainment focused as opposed to hard lesson, which is a little bit of a change for me. But I got other short documentaries that I've either filmed or I plan to film soon. And with this film in particular, I did share it online for the first time this week. It's been a year and a half since we premiered it, and I'm just really looking forward to this film particularly being seen by people that it might benefit out there. And I'm looking forward to kind of riding that wave a little bit, and like I said, get working on my other projects as well.
And where can people find Junkin, the film that you made this for the Frozen River Film Festival this year? And where can they find your other documentaries? And just to tack a little more onto that, where could people find Mike's work?
So you can find my father's work on Facebook. His Facebook name is Reclaimed Art by Mike Heck. And our last name is spelled Heck, like what the heck, if you're listening to this. So Reclaimed Art by Mike Heck on Facebook. And then I can be found on YouTube and Instagram at Andy Heck Films. And also on Google, if you want to Google that, you can find my website, which is andyheckfilms.com. Junkin is on there as well as on my YouTube channel.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you too as well. And I know you were there at the festival, and you saw and participated in some of the audience feedback at the end. And I think that's been the great thing about this project, is meeting people around the country and exchanging stories. You know, I'm a big storyteller. I do live storytelling as well as filmmaking, and I think, you know, the more we each share our stories, no matter how significant or insignificant they may seem, I'm always amazed by how I'm met with reciprocation of stories from other people that are as amazing as well. And I really look forward to, you know, more stories being exchanged through this project.
Thanks again to Andy Heck and Mike Heck for joining us today on Artbeat. To see more of Mike's work, check out facebook.com/art-by-Mike-Heck. To see Junkin or any of Andy Heck's work, check out andyheckfilms.com. For more conversations on art, tune into Artbeat, Tuesdays at 12:30 right here at 89.5 KQAL. I'm Giovanni Bermudez, and that's a wrap.
Artbeat is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University. Visit us on the web at kqal.org.